Okay, hi everybody, Carmen Costigan here. I'm very happy to be having a chat today to John Fieldus, Principal of Ray White Gladstone. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Carmen, and welcome to Gladstone.
Oh, well, I had a fabulous time, stayed here for the night, so highly recommend it. So I wanted to have a bit of a chat just about what's been going on in Gladstone over the last few years, because it's been quite a roller coaster ride, hasn't it?
Yeah, sure has. The market here has traditionally been up and down, but it's sort of a boom-bust town, and it's fairly famous for that.
Yes.
But look, earlier in the decade, we had 3 LNG plants come to town. Our population's about 35,000, and we had 14,000 extra people come to town.
Gosh, so it's a huge extra number, yeah.
You can't sneak that many people into town.
No, I bet you can't.
No.
So what happened as a result of that big influx of people in terms of the rental market?
Yeah, basically, within a short space of time, within a few months, every rental in town dried up, and then it became a bidding war, and it was basically a multinational company versus the locals. And cut a long story short, 5,000 people got ejected out of town because they just simply couldn't find property, let alone afford it.
Wow.
Really sad.
So on average, let's just say like a 4-bedroom, 2-bedroom house. So what would the average rent have been, and what did it jump up to?
Yeah, well look, a 4-bedroom home at the time was easily $350 to $380, perhaps $400 a week.
Pretty standard.
Fairly standard.
Yeah.
And then within a short space of time, it went to between $700 and $1,000 a week.
Wow.
And you know, people just could not afford that. It was it was a social disaster.
Yeah, but in terms of the landlord's perspective, I'm sure there'd be those who had probably purchased at that time who felt like they'd won the lotto, maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. There were those people that cashed in early, I guess.
Yes.
And then there was quite a few what I consider to be disingenuous landlords that I felt did the wrong thing. You know, were putting people's rents up to $200-300 in one go.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of these were tenants that they had for 10 years, and you know, I grappled with that. I mean, sure, market forces dictate, but there's a you know, there's a social responsibility as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's sort of that double-edged coin, because as the landlord and as a business owner, obviously management fees come into it. So there's that opportunity to get more, but then there's that downside to it too for people.
Well, there is. I mean, this is a small town. I mean, you not that I would recommend it, but you don't get away with that in a small town. We need to be here for a long time, and we will be here for a long time.
Yes.
And so therefore, you know, there is that responsibility, and I think we acted as best we could.
Yes.
But you know, there were market forces at hand as well. So it became very difficult. Obviously, I think the LNG plants were poorly planned. There was very little accommodation, so the town more or less behaved as a motel for the multinationals.
Yeah, which I believe similar things have happened in WA as well. So given that, so everything's riding on a high, and the rents are really high, what changed?
Well, we got to a point where then the multinationals built their own workers' camps, yet houses continued to get built. And there was 5,000 extra houses got built in town. You know, there was streets where you would find 50 houses in a row being built, high-rise units. And I mean, we've got a country town here, and we had 5 cranes hanging over the CBD building high-rise. Things that just don't belong here. And those properties have struggled. We had houses, 5 bedrooms with 5 bathrooms, and you try and find a lady that wants that these days, you know.
Well, only if I have a cleaner to go with it.
Correct, yeah, and you're going to pay 5 times as much.
Exactly.
But so then the rents peaked out, and then basically we had this massive oversupply creep in. We saw rents topple. You know, and then the market was very much in the hands of the tenants. And so therefore, in terms of our business, we've seen in bad instances, rents are at a quarter of what they used to be, but generally rule of thumb between a half and 2/3.
Yes.
And it's tumbled and tumbled and tumbled to the point now where anyone can come to town and afford the best house.
Yes.
And it's really out of balance, and you know, rents are hurting. Landlords, particularly those that bought at the top of the boom, are hurting big time.
Yeah.
From our point of view, we had to maintain occupancy. If we didn't have occupancy on what we had as a business, we were already battling a lot of market forces. So our complete focus during the boom was on occupancy.
Okay.
And therefore, we did a lot of unusual things.
Yeah, so Kim, I have heard a couple of things that you did that you think are a bit out of the box that made a difference.
Yes, so we put prices on all of our signs. Price point was the big seller, and so we were educating the market as well, but prices on signs was a big one. We've stopped doing that. We weren't particularly proud of having to do that, but you've got to do what you've got to do.
And it worked?
It did work, It brought plenty of custom in. And then, large advertisements in the paper we ran with rent events, we called them, which, I understand have gone into Victoria and great places. But, 6 pages of rental properties in the paper, big open house events. We ended up on the local Channel 7 news. We were just using all the media possible, just not relying on the internet. If you went to the internet, it was flooded. There was 1,200 vacancies here. In a little town like ours. And the tenants were confused. They just went and then they said, well, okay, we find a house, but okay, we'll offer $50 a week less. And those deals were getting done, and it was just getting undercut, and it was honestly, Carmen, it was like a race to the bottom. It was awfully scary. It was going on as late as last year. Thankfully, this year it's pulled up. We have pulled the handbrake on. It has stopped. So with that, in terms of that, how were you having those difficult conversations with the landlords who were finding that rent was a third of what it had been initially, when they're saying to you, well, we can't afford it? How do you deal with that yourself? Yeah, sure. So there was just a lot of education around the landlords, letting them know that what the true situation was. It wasn't just what the property manager was reporting. They got very personal. So our company had to step up and educate, inform and provide evidence and plenty of transparent information. And Andrew, that we our co-directors here had to really engage strongly with that and say that, look, we've been here for a long time, and we had to be very clinical, but also show raw emotion that we were upset by this as well. We don't like what's happening, but we've got to deal with what we've got in front of us.
And I think that would be a challenge as a business owner, because the team will look to you for direction. So you have to be strong for the team, and you also have to be pragmatic for the landlords without sounding cold and businesslike about it. So it's obviously quite a big juggling act that you'd have to review daily what you were going to do.
Absolutely, we met at 8:30 every day. I did that for several years. Thankfully I don't need to micromanage to that extent. But it was almost like we were going in to war, really. War. Absolutely. And so we took that approach. In terms of our team, when we started seeing some improvement, we rebuilt the team. We built into pods, and then of course we've continued on with it. We've got our local concierge team, which I'm awfully proud of. There's 3 ladies in there, and there's a complete focus on letting, and that's brought us to a point today where we're back at 3.2%, which we think is our best result for about 2 years.
Fantastic.
And we're actually lifting rents. So this is a town that runs like a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Never stops.
So there's obviously constantly looking at the market, seeing where it's at and where do we go today type of thing. So if there's any advice you could give for our business owners, particularly those sort of in WA at the moment who are probably not this far ahead in it, so they're probably in that really difficult position now, what sort of advice would you give to the business owner in terms of how to direct the team and where to go?
Sure. I think the first thing is work out with the team, what the facts are. Sing from the same hymn book. Don't go improvising. If you ring 4 people in your team, make sure that they know what the facts are. Good. And don't let them make it up. We need to know, we watch our facts very closely. I think from the point of view of the principals and directors, take some lead, educate your landlords, talk with them, put newsletters out.
That's a good idea.
And even if it's ugly, I know when you've got bad news and ugly news, you don't like reporting, and that's the best news.
Yep.
And then look at what you're doing in terms of marketing. You know, make sure that your marketing is sharp. Make sure you're responding to whatever tenants are out there within, you know, hours, let alone days, because the big thing when you get awash with large vacancy rates, and we had 12% vacancy rate here, is step your service up. Put structures in place to serve the customers. That by default will stand you out from the rest, where you know everyone's in chaos basically, and it felt chaotic for some time. And I remember walking in here and thinking, oh geez, my Lego blocks are all over the floor. You know, you've got to
rebuild it.
You've got to make sure it's built, and everyone needs to do that together. It's really, really important. Market strongly. Get out in the face of the public. Jury's still out on whether to put prices on signs. We tried it, it didn't work. Don't be scared of old school things like newspapers, brochures, letterbox drops. You know, I think that often rentals gets considered really differently from sales.
Absolutely.
Go do what the salespeople do.
I think that's great.
And get stuck into it. And I think that you know we've learnt a lot, and it might sound silly, but I'm really glad we've come through this. We are so much better, and you know we will put this in place for many, many years. A lot of the things we've learnt have culturally just become us. So for those guys that are in WA that are doing it tough, approach it positively. You're going to learn a lot.
Absolutely.
Strap in. No fear.
Prepare.
No fear.
And I think if you're the tenant's choice, then you'll be the landlord's choice. And how to be the tenant's choice is to, obviously you can't necessarily dictate what every market rent's going to be, but you can dictate how you treat those tenants, and having all of your team work at their highest possible level to be the highest performing team despite what's going on outside of the office. And the best advice I can give, particularly for the teams, is don't become a victim of these circumstances. It's too easy to blame the market. It's too easy to say this is hard. It's too easy to say that every landlord in the world's just coming at me. They're only coming at you because they don't know what's going on. Teach them. Teach them and train them. And even if they've got a property that's full, don't wait till it becomes vacant and then drop the bomb on them. Teach them all the way, because it does teach them the importance of lease renewal as well. Absolutely.
A lot of landlords made mistakes at lease renewal. They said, well, look, if they want $50 a week or $100 a week less, kick them out. Bad decision. Occupancy is king.
Excellent. Oh, so much good advice. Thank you so much, John. That's fantastic. And I do talk about Ray White Gladstone Property Management Team a lot, but there's a very good reason for it, as you've just heard. So congratulations for going through that and for where you're going from now.
Okay, I think we've won Survivor.
Oh, well done. Okay, thanks, John.
Bye.